Hey, what's going on, my Jets family? How are you guys doing today? It's very, very good to see you guys. I want to appreciate you for tuning in to the Take Flight Spin Fire podcast. Appreciate you being here with me, Harrison Glazer. Always excited to talk to you guys about those Jets. Obviously, we don't have a win, and the big conversation I'm going to be talking to you guys about today is Zach Wilson. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to trickle in. See a couple of you guys. I appreciate you. Appreciate everyone there. Appreciate you guys listening in. If you haven't, if you could please subscribe to the channel. As you guys know, I'm trying to work my way up, maybe get myself up to 1,000 subscribers. That'd be awesome. If you could help me out, it'd be greatly appreciated. Would greatly appreciate that. Excuse me. So again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you guys listening. Always excited to be talking with you guys. Always excited about chatting with those Jets. So the main topic of conversation that we're going to be talking about is Zach Wilson. So right before we get into it, give everyone, lecture minute or two to mosey on in. Tell your friends, let your friends know, tell them to come on in. We're going to be talking about some stuff. I'm going to be letting you guys know as you know, I've always had certain takes on Zach Wilson. We're going to talk about him. We're going to discuss it. So again, appreciate all you guys there. So if you want to let everybody know, bring them on in. Bring them on in. We'll have a conversation. But appreciate you guys who are here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Always awesome to see you guys. As you know, Joe Douglas had his press conference today. I started tweeting out part of it. As you guys know, with teaching, I'm just working like crazy hours. Got home late, started tweeting it out. Excuse me, got home late, started tweeting it out. I didn't finish because I wanted to come live with you guys, wanted to talk, chat it up with you guys. So didn't gonna finish bringing it to you guys as well. Gonna keep doing that. But appreciate you guys being here. And as people come in, want to get started, I want to talk about Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is the proverbial elephant in the room, if we may say. So appreciate you guys being here. Right before we get into it, because again, want as many people come in so they don't miss what we're going to talk about with Zach Wilson. But one positive thing we can note before we get started was the Jets defense, right? Zach Wilson, and we're going to talk about how he did them no favors. He had 3 interceptions. Now the defense kept us in that game. We have to remember that. Our pass rush was pretty damn good. And if you guys haven't heard, the Jets just traded Jacob Martin and didn't really get a huge amount in return. We traded Jacob Martin and a 5th round pick, and we got a 4th. I mean, when Joe Douglas was asked about it, I liked his answer because it's kind of the way I was looking at it. There's so much beautiful depth in our defensive end room. And we got Carl Lawson who's killing it. Bryce Huff, you guys know I've had Bryce on this channel. Bryce Huff is my dude. Excuse me. I've always been a huge fan of Bryce Huff. I've always felt like this kid's going to take off. I couldn't believe he went undrafted. Loved him at Memphis. Man, he's getting his opportunity. So he's going to get more time to eat, which is exciting. So I want to hear what you guys think as well. I want to hear your guys' opinions also. But yeah, so the Jets traded away Jacob Martin. We traded him and a 5th round pick in 20, not this coming one, which is interesting, 2024. We traded Jacob and a 5th round pick in 2024 to get a 4th round pick in 2024. So again, not a huge change, but man, that's going to give Bryce Huff more time to eat, right? Bryce Huff, who you guys know I'm a big fan of, he's going to get to eat more because, man, I don't know if you guys know, back when the season first started, my biggest thing on Bryce Huff has always been his get off, right? I put it out back, I think it was August, saying Bryce Huff's get off is incredible. Well, I found out he's got the best get off in the NFL, man. He's got the fastest get off of all defensive ends, which is freaking awesome. So Bryce Huff, man, he should get more time to eat, and he's in the last year of his contract. I'd like to keep him around. I'd like to sign him. So that's some interesting news. But as you guys know, I want to give everyone a couple of minutes to come on in. The big story, the big thing we're going to talk about is Zach Wilson. So I appreciate you guys here. Like I said, if you want to grab your buddies, grab your friends, bring them in, and we're going to talk about Zach. So let's get into it. Let's get started. So to start it right off the bat, you can't sugarcoat it. You can't lie and say it didn't happen. Zach Wilson had a terrible game. That is a fact. Zach Wilson had awful. Zach Wilson had an awful game, made really bad decisions. he made really, really bad reads and bad throws because of those bad decisions and reads. I would like to know what he was thinking a couple of those times. So that first interception, right? He threw three of them. And we talked about earlier, that Jets defense. We have to keep in mind that Zach threw three interceptions and the defense kept us in the game to the point where, again, with Zach's really bad three interceptions, excuse me, we were able to score a touchdown at the end and potentially still be in it. Think about that against a top passing defense in the league. And we're going to talk about that with Zach as well. But yeah, the defense was awesome. The defense, obviously, they weren't as good on third down. That would have been really good. But the defense kept us in that game, even though the offense kept screwing it up. So that's really big. That's really, really big. And shout out to the defense again, especially the pass rush. They were getting lots of pressure. And Matt, Carl Lawson and Bryce Huff, other guys are killing it as well, but they've been really killing it. The two of them have been really killing it. Can't wait to see more of them. So I want to know what you guys think as well. Please let me know your thoughts. But back to Zach Wilson, because that's the conversation here that we're going to be talking about through this whole show. Okay. So Zach Wilson did not have a good game. It's a fact. He had a really bad game. He threw three interceptions. Again, that first one was off his back foot with a defender in his face. Don't know why he thought, I'm just going to sail it over the defender while I'm falling backward. Really, again, bad decision. It was bad decisions and bad reads that led to bad throws, and it compounded. It just kept compounding on him. It was like a snowball. And we're going to talk about the good and the bad of that. So I got a lot on my Zach Wilson take. I got a lot I want to talk to you guys about. And please let me know what you're thinking, like we always do. Please let me know your thoughts. Let me know, disagree, agree. You have an idea, please share it out. Let me know. So you can't lie about it. You can't say it didn't happen. Zach Wilson had a bad game. He clearly was the reason the Jets lost that game. I mean, the defense kept us in it. We were in the game all the way to the end, which again, I still think is damn impressive. That with all the bad the offense did, like in the first half, we gave them the ball basically in the red zone and held them to a field goal. The defense held them. And then at the end of the game, we were able to score that touchdown, maybe get the onside kick back. We could still potentially come back after how bad it was. So the defense, man, again, could have been better on third down. That's a fact, but the defense was really good, especially the pass rush. So Zach did not look good. Again, a bunch of really bad interceptions, right? But let's talk about Zach's performance a little bit. So Zach had a really bad game. That is a fact. We can't lie about that. However, we can look at how bad that game really was. And obviously he made really bad decisions, right? Let's not, before you guys hate me completely, right? He made some really bad decisions. Excuse me. Some really bad throws and some really bad plays. But the Jets had a good day receiving, right? Garrett Wilson had over 100 and change yards. It was his second 100+ yard game. Tyler Conklin had his best career game as a Jet with almost 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Mims, he padded it at the end with a beautiful catch. And man, Mims earned his way more into the offense, and we can talk about that as well. Love to hear what you guys think about that. So we got Ant there. Sup, bro? Appreciate you. Appreciate all you guys out there. Appreciate you tuning in. So again, you may agree mostly with my Zach Wilson take, because he was bad. I mean, you can't argue that, right? No one can stand here. If anyone's telling you that Zach Wilson had a great game, turn it off. Turn it off, because he didn't. He made really bad decisions. But what's interesting, and I noticed this as well, take the bad decisions out of the game. Again, not saying they weren't bad decisions. They were bad. But the point I'm trying to get here, and you'll see where I'm going. Take the bad decisions out of the game. Take those bad throws and really bad reads out of what he did. If you remember, everyone's big knock on Zach Wilson is he's a game manager, right? They're like, he's been a game manager these last couple of games. And I've been pointing out, like other people, he is going against top defenses. So we do have to keep that in mind as well. Zach Wilson is going against top defenses in the NFL, specifically secondaries, right? We talked about it just last week, that they asked Robert Saleh about all the off-script stuff that he loves from Zach, and I love too. If you guys remember, that was the biggest things I loved about him, right? that he really couldn't do that because he was under constant duress and the coverage was really sticky and he was playing really top secondaries. Saleh said that wasn't going to change going into New England. And that's because New England, if you guys saw, I put it out on Twitter, but if you missed it, New England's got the second best pass defense in the NFL. Buffalo has the best, and that's where we're going next week. So I guess fuck me sideways, right? I mean, Buffalo's got the best, and the Patriots have the second. But everyone was calling Zach Wilson a game manager, right? That they were going through with the running game, which is true, right? Our offense was going through Breece Hall. That was a fact. Our offense was going through the running game. Our running game was Breece Hall. We talked about how Zach wasn't having not last week, the weeks before. We talked about how Zach wasn't having bad games, but he also wasn't having good games. He wasn't really putting up the numbers we wanted to see. Well, let's talk about one statistic for a second and think about just this. Somebody brought this up to me the other day, and it made a lot of sense. Zach Wilson threw for over 350 yards against the second best passing defense in the NFL. So again, obviously a shit ton of bad. Don't get me wrong. We're going to talk about the bad. It was really bad. But Zach Wilson threw for over 350 yards against the second best passing defense in the NFL. So my question for you guys, does that sound like a game manager? That's my question there. Does that sound like something a game manager does? So Zach is a young kid, right? We know that with unfortunate injuries, which again, the Patriots, like we could talk about the game as well. Mainly I wanted to talk about Zach, but talking about the game as well. How about all the shit? Appreciate you, Ant. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. But how about all the shit the announcers were giving our defenders for clean hits on Mac Jones when last year their freaking defenders literally killed Zach Wilson in a dirty play that was after the whistle basically and out of bounds. Like, how about that? Because that pissed me off, right? They were talking about how many hits Mac was taking, but that hit DJ put on him, that was clean. He was still in bounds. So, but man, appreciate all you guys. Appreciate you there. You know, if you want to let your friends know, bring them in because I do want to have a conversation with you guys about Zach. But that's something to think about, right? Everyone's like, he can't be that guy that can have big games, right? He's a game manager. Well, guys like that don't put up 350 something yards against, again, the second best passing defense in the NFL. So like we said, Zach is young, right? Zach is literally in his second year, and he's unfortunately with injury and shit, barely played a full season, right? He's only, again, not making excuses, right? But the facts are that he's barely played a full season. We talked about this just the other week, right? Remember, I literally said, would I like Zach Wilson to come out? Remember, I said throw for over 300 yards, which he did. Let's keep that part in mind, right? But I was like, if Zach could come out every week and throw for 300, 400 plus yards, 3-4 something touchdowns, I would love it. We would all freaking love it. That would be amazing. But we have to remember that everybody, and points out so many overreactions. We have to remember everybody progresses differently. Remember, we've joked about this here, right? The Patrick Mahomes standard. You want the guy to automatically make that second year leap, to automatically be the guy and be great and be amazing. But everybody progresses at their own rates. Everybody gets better, sometimes has bad games, right? That's kind of how young players are. They have good games and they have bad games. The hope is that they learn from the bad games. They learn from the mistakes they made. They don't continue to make them. I mean, we can joke, we can call that Sam Darnold syndrome, right? We'll call it Sam Darnold syndrome. They don't continue to make those bad mistakes and they start to do more good. That's what you want to see. But Zach is a young quarterback. And the way to think about it is this. What if Zach comes out next week and has the same kind of game, but doesn't make the same mistakes? What if he throws for over 350, 300 yards, right? What if he has 2 touchdowns and he doesn't make the mistakes? Are people going to say the same thing? So like Ant points out, it's overreaction city, right? And that's what it is. So it's the same thing with people. You guys remember, my whole take was always, I love what I see in Zach Wilson. I do believe he has the potential. Potential is the key to become a great quarterback. I believe he has all the tools and all the things that I look for that I think would that I felt would translate to the next level. And I love his work ethic, his attitude. But it's crazy to say anything that he hasn't been anything better than mediocre, honestly, so far. He's had some good games. He's also had some bad games, and he's been mediocre-ish, kind of on average, right? If we compare him to guys like Fields and stuff like that, the numbers aren't crazy different. Like his completion percentage is low, but it's kind of the same with that whole class. So the point is everybody progresses at their own rate, right? So you know, could it be next week that he makes a huge stride, or the week after that he makes a huge stride? And I don't want this to be the case. Believe me, I don't want this to be the case. But how many times have we seen quarterbacks struggle through their first 2 years and then make a major breakthrough in year three? Again, I don't want that. Let me stress that I don't want that to be the case. But like Ant's saying right here, it's overreaction, right? The point is, and here's how we got to look at it. There's been tons of people that have always been saying that Zach Wilson was going to be a bust, right? There's been tons of people saying that he was going to be a bust. I think, the Dan Kelly is like the biggest one of that one, right? There's so many people that were always saying Dak was going to be a bust and he never was going to make it. Games like this bring those people out. They come out of the woodworks. They go, wait a minute, Zach was awful. And they come out of the woodwork and they start making their cases again and making their voices be heard. But the point is, just like that, saying he's a bust already is the same as saying he's great already. It's overreactions. The truth is, he's a young quarterback learning at the NFL level, and he's going to have bad games. He's going to make mistakes. But again, the promising thing, and that's the big thing I wanted to talk about that I don't think enough people focused on. The biggest promising thing was everyone kept saying, well, against these top defenses, he's been a game manager, right? Against top passing secondaries, he hasn't done that much. Well, again, my question, like I asked you guys, does a game manager put up 350 plus yards against the second best passing defense in the NFL? So again, he made huge mistakes. He made absolutely horrible mistakes. And we can go through those, right? First mistake, obviously, that was a terrible decision to throw that first ball. Like we said, it was on his back foot. He wasn't balanced. He wasn't even in a good position. There was a defender in his face, so he threw it high and he sailed it. He sailed it and it went right over the receiver, literally right over. The second one, they asked Robert Saleh about it in the press conference. Robert Saleh said himself he didn't think that was an interception. He believes the guy was out of bounds. But regardless, Zach, you're throwing the ball away. You have a cannon for an arm. Sail it into the second row. I mean, shit, hit the scoreboard just so fans can joke around. Oh my God, he's got such a great arm. He hit the scoreboard. Sail it. I have no idea. I'm still trying to process what the hell he was thinking when he threw that ball to the sideline like that. It wasn't even fully out of bounds. Didn't make any sense to me. Again, Robert Saleh said he thought that guy was out of bounds. He didn't make the pick, but a terrible decision. So this game had a bunch of really, really bad decisions that Zach Wilson made in the heat of the moment. But he kept making those bad decisions. Many are going to look at that as a negative because it is a negative to keep doing bad things. But let's talk about something for a second. One, and I want to bring it up here to share it with you guys. I want to bring the exact quote. So after the game, they asked Robert Saleh, where is it? Excuse me. And for some reason, it doesn't want to work. It doesn't want to scroll. So after the game, they asked Robert Saleh about Zach Wilson potentially losing his confidence. Where is it? It is here. I do have it. It is here. Here we go. He said, we can't let Zach Wilson lose his confidence. We've got to do a better job, and we've got to figure out a way to help him. He said, football's hard enough, but self-inflicted mistakes literally make it impossible. He said, but Zach, he's going to figure it out. He's going to be fine. I think what Robert Saleh is saying in that moment, he's a confident kid. We know that about Zach Wilson. And don't we always say we want our quarterback to not dwell on his mistakes, right? We want our quarterback to not focus and hone in on the mistake he made and the interception he made, to come back out, okay, new drive, reset, got my confidence, I'm still going to sling it. So again, he made really bad decisions. That's a fact. No one's arguing that here. Zach Wilson made really bad decisions and really bad reads that cost us the game, right? We know that for a fact. What's going on, Robbie? Appreciate you, bro. Says long time. Well, you should come in. Appreciate you guys. If you guys want to, let your buddies know. I know Green Bean's got his thing going. Love all you guys. If you guys, want to let people know, my show is Mondays. Love when you guys are here. I love chatting with all you guys. But back to Zach Wilson, right? We're talking about the not great game he had, right? It was a bad game. He had a really bad game. He made bad decisions, right? And those bad decisions compounded on him. He made multiple bad reads and it cost us the game, right? We know the defense kept us in the game. It's kind of crazy, actually, with how many turnovers we had and how bad those turnovers were, that we still had a chance at the end of the game. That's something we do have to focus on. And I put it out a little earlier on Twitter. I thought that was one of the best positives, that we were still somehow in that game with how bad the decision Zach Wilson made, right? So the defense deserves a lot of props. But these bad decisions, he came out confident, right? And you want your young quarterback to have confidence. You want him to believe in himself. You want him to believe, yeah, that was a fluke. I'm not going to do that again. He's not going to come out thinking about the interception. I mean, you want him to make smart throws. Don't get me wrong. You want him to make smart reads. You want him to make smart decisions. But confidence is an important thing. And like Robert Saleh said, losing confidence as a young quarterback is killer. Like absolutely killer. Like one of the worst things that can happen, right? You don't want that to happen. So appreciate all you guys in the chats. You guys are bringing some comments. So New York Jets fan, shout out to NY Jets fan 4. Says last year the Patriots was Zach's first game before he got hurt. When he came back, he was really good. So that is true. And we do have to keep that in mind, right? Zach Wilson, you guys remember, that's always been my take on the kid. He's shown good learning, right? He came back after his injury last year, and he was really good, right? I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it was something like he had like 4 total touchdowns and like 7 interceptions before he got hurt. Then he came back and had like 9 total touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. He learned, right? That's what you have to expect. Again, we all want and appreciate all you guys out there. That's pretty much the take on this. I understand the frustration because I'm a Jet fan too, right? I got my Jet shirt on. It's not like I don't want to win. I'm with you guys. I want to win. Remember, that's always been my take, right? We got to keep finding those W's. Get the W's, get to the playoffs. Let's go. We want to win. We all want to win. I want to win as well. But all the people saying that Zach is already a bust, that it's over for him. These are the same people, I guarantee it, that always felt that way. They're the ones, do your receipts, right? Go back and find those receipts. I bet these are the same people that were always saying he was a bust, and they're coming out of the woodwork, right? Yeah, so like New York Jets fan 4 points out, if we get the Zach with the 9 touchdowns and the 2 interceptions, we make the playoffs. 100% agree, man. 100% agree. So we have to, again, look at it. He's a young kid. He's a young kid. And again, we all, like I was saying before, if you guys coming in now, appreciate all you guys. Have been talking about it for a little while. If you have any other things you want me to bring up, let me know. But we have, what's a good way to put it? He's a young kid, right? Zach Wilson's a young kid. He's learning. He's going to make mistakes. We want, like I said, okay. Our team is stacked, right? We know that. That's, I think, again, the frustration we all have. Our defense is freaking awesome. Again, they somehow kept us in this game, which is crazy. Crazy that they kept us in this game. They've been great every week. Every week so far since Zach's come back, the defense has been awesome. We have really good receivers. We feel like our team is ready. It's a playoff team, and Zach's not ready. And that's why right? That's why a lot of people are upset. They're like, this is a playoff team. This team's ready to go. And Zach is holding us back, right? But we have to remember, and this, I think, a misconception we all had. We just figured that when the team started playing great, Zach Wilson would automatically become great too, right? That's what we figured. But what we're seeing is the truth of it. And the truth is, everybody, like we said, progresses differently. You can have that Mahomes that's great immediately, right? You could have a guy like Mac Jones. He was literally benched, right? Mac Jones, drafted same year as Zach Wilson, he was literally benched. And here's a way to think about it. Mac Jones was literally benched, and there is nobody in New England saying that Mac Jones couldn't potentially still be the guy because he's so young, because he's so raw. He's still learning. We're Jet fans. I'm the same way. We're passionate, right? I get passionate. You guys see me here. I get excited, right? I get upset sometimes. I'm real with you guys, right? If I'm upset, I'm like, this sucks. And we can't deny. It can't be argued that Zach Wilson made really bad decisions, right? Zach Wilson made really bad decisions in that game, really bad reads. But again, trying to look at it from a young quarterback. And again, I think the most important thing that I've been saying, and this is something I noticed the other day, and it's so true. We want Zach Wilson to be a great quarterback. And a great quarterback puts up 300 plus yards a game against top defenses. Well, that is what Zach did. He made really bad mistakes. Don't get me wrong. Really bad mistakes that literally cost us the game. And he kept making them. Which, again, I think is, again, they weren't the same mistake. And that's the point. It's not like he came out and made the same exact bad decision on the same exact read. They were different bad decisions, but they compounded. And I think it is, again, in trying to look at it in a positive way, Robert Saleh doesn't seem afraid that Zach's going to lose his confidence. And I think that's, again, because he is a confident kid. He's not coming out going, oh, woe is me. I can't air the ball out. I'm going to get an interception. I don't want to throw it downfield. No, he kept doing it. It kept coming out badly, but he kept doing it. He kept trying. What's that old term we like to say? You get back on the horse, right? Zach Wilson didn't stay on the ground. He got back on the horse. Problem is he kept falling off the damn horse, but he got his ass back on the horse. So he's a young kid, right? He's literally only played like a full season. Basically, I know he's in his second year, and we all wanted it, right? I think, again, that's the best way to look at this. We just talked about how great this defense has been. We've talked about how much potential is on this team. We know it's a really great team. Zach is the one holding us back. But that being the case, he's a young quarterback that's developing. It's not crazy that he's the thing that is holding us back. The whole point is then that as he gets better, as he, again, hopefully, right? And that's something we could talk about as well, right? So the question of people saying Zach Wilson not being good, right? This was a bad game. He had good, though, right? Like we said, he threw for over 350 yards, right? He did have 2 touchdowns against the second best passing defense in the NFL, but he made really bad decisions. He had 3 really bad interceptions. Well, my question for you guys is, can you tell me the last time we got Jets mess? Yo, my brother. Yo, what's up? My question for you guys. Can you tell me the last time that Zach Wilson had a game that literally his play cost us the game, right? Tell me the last time Zach Wilson, or even how many times, other than this last week, obviously, other than this last game, how many other times in his short career so far has Zach Wilson played games where his play personally, just his play, is the reason we lost the game? I'll wait while people look. But the truth is, like New York Jets fan says, the last time we played the Pats last year, it's like once. It's like once. Maybe there's one other game. I can't remember the one I was looking at where he didn't personally cost us the game, but it was a multiple interception game. He's a young kid, right? He's developing. You can't expect every game to be perfect. There's going to be bad games. Like with every young kid, there's going to be good. There's going to be bad. There's going to be good and there's going to be bad. The hope is that he learns from the bad and doesn't make the same mistakes. The joke, like we said, so like Robbie points out, that not what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's good because he's not bad. So if you do notice, I haven't said that Zach Wilson is great, right? I'm not saying that he had a good game. I'm just pointing out that these kind of games will happen. These things are to be expected again against the New England Patriots of all teams. It sucks. It was a gut punch. It was in MetLife, right? We were all hyped. We were hyped, right? Appreciate you, Robbie. Appreciate you. We were all hyped because it was in MetLife after the Patriots freaking shut us out the last time we played them. This was a revenge game, right? Jeff Ulbrich was saying how it was a revenge game. Carl Lawson was saying, yeah, this didn't sit right with us the last time. This is a freaking revenge game. It stung. It stung because, again, Zach Wilson, you can't argue it. Zach Wilson literally cost us the game. But like we said, the things we pointed out, he did throw for over 350 yards. And I know I saw it on Twitter. Everybody's big argument was that Zach Wilson's a game manager, right? In the games where he's playing quality defenses, like he's been, right? Every week, remember we talked about that. We were talking about it earlier. Every week, Zach Wilson has played a quality top defense in the league. All excellent defenses, right? They've all been excellent secondaries. Then we talked about Saleh's quote that the coverage has been very sticky. Excuse me. Appreciate you guys tuning in. See you guys there. Appreciate you guys. Give a lot of information before. If you want me to repeat some stuff, let me know. Let me know. But we talk about how that, excuse me. We talk about how that, that's a good way to put it. We say that so to make it clear, like we were saying before, he didn't have a good game, right? He made really bad decisions. But the big take we had before was that if we take out those bad decisions, which again, I'm not saying that makes him good, right? I'm not saying that. But if we take out the bad decisions, the mistakes he made, he threw for over 350 yards against the second best passing defense in the NFL. And my question I posed right in the beginning to you guys is, does that sound like a game manager to you? So the point is, the potential is there, right? That's the whole point with this. He's not that shiny diamond we want yet. And again, they were bad decisions. You can't argue that. They were really, really bad decisions. Again, that throw on his back foot. Why would he try to sail it over a defender when he literally can't see the receiver? That throwing it out of bounds, fuck, dude. Like, put it in the second row. Like, that. A lot of bad decisions. Really, really bad decisions. But like NY Jets fan 4 points out, he had a really good game against Tampa Bay. We saw how good he could be. Like you said, our defense sucked last year, but Zach was good. Maybe it's just our syndrome. We're trying to get everything clicking at the same time. Right now, the defense is killing it, right? We got to love that. We got to love that the defense is killing it. But like we said, it wasn't a good game, right? Zach Wilson clearly had a bad game, clearly made a lot of bad decisions, and can't defend that. We can't say he had a good game. But I think, as everyone's feeling, right, is our team is a ready team, right? Our team is ready now. Our defense looks great. Our receivers look really good. And like we talked about in the beginning of the show, Garrett Wilson had over 100 yards receiving. Had a huge game. It had a huge, big 50-something yard catch, too. And it was his second 100-plus yard game. Tyler Conklin had a career game, catching 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, right? Denzel Mims, even though it was kind of at garbage time at the end, it was still an awesome play. He took 2 hits like a champ and kept going. Mims had like 76 yards. Who threw them the ball, right? The ball didn't throw itself. It had to come from somewhere, right? So Zach threw them the ball. So like Robbie points out, Robbie says Zach did have his moments in the pit fourth quarter. Definitely. I get, it's again, the rest, it was a really bad game. You can't argue that. It was a really bad game, really bad decisions, and I was pissed myself. I was angry. After the game, I was pissed because, like you guys, we know Zach cost us the game. We were watching that game knowing Zach Wilson cost us the game with his bad decisions and making bad throws. Our defense, freaking again, wasn't great on third down, but kept us in the game. Somehow made it that with all of that bad, we somehow had a chance at the end. So the defense was great. We feel like, right? We feel like our team is ready. We feel like we have a team that's ready to go, and Zach Wilson isn't ready. And we're pissed. But we do have to, again, cool our brakes, right? Cool our brakes and think about some of the things I'm mentioning, right? Think about the positives that he did throw for 350 plus yards against the second best passing defense in the NFL, right? Game managers don't do that. He's learning. He made some really bad mistakes. We have to see, does he continue to make those mistakes? And that's the thing we have to watch. So, Zach Wilson controls his own destiny right now. Zach Wilson controls his own fate. If he continues to make these same mistakes, if he has, like we were joking about, Sam Darnold syndrome, right? If he continues to make the same mistakes, if he continues to not learn and continue to look and do things like that, then we clearly then have to question, can he be the guy? But it's too early. It's one really bad game. It was a really bad game with some positives like we did talk about that weren't focused on, but it was one. It was one really bad game. And like I challenged you guys, we're thinking back, how many games did Zach Wilson have so far where he personally cost us the game, like this New England game, where he personally was bad enough that he's the reason alone that the game was lost. It hasn't happened. And believe me, I get it. It sucks. I was pissed too. I'm telling you guys. Again, I want Zach Wilson to be the guy, but I'll show you again. I'm a freaking Jet fan, just like you guys. I want to win. I want to win however we can win. That's the most important thing to me. I believe Zach Wilson can develop into the guy. When that happens, we don't know. And that's the point, right? I would love, remember my big take the other week was, wouldn't I love Zach Wilson to come out and throw for 400 plus yards, which again, let's remember he did throw for 300 plus yards. Let's remember that. But would I not love him to come out and throw for 400 plus yards, have 4 touchdown games, not the mistakes, not throw the interceptions? Of course I would. We all would. But it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. This one game doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Again, best examples, look at the other guys that were drafted. Justin Fields ain't looking that much better. Hell, even Trevor Lawrence. He's playing a little better, but he isn't looking that much better. He's still, like we saw with Denver, when he played that Denver defense, his ass got exposed too, because he's a young quarterback playing at the NFL level. So, for example, talking about Zach a little bit more. You guys remember this was the kid I really loved. And one of the things I really loved about Zach is what Robert Saleh coined the term. I called it more his escapability and his ability to read the field. Saleh's called it his off-schedule stuff. So we're going to use that term because I like that. One of the biggest things I loved about Zach was what Saleh says, his off-schedule stuff. His ability to sense that pocket presence, pressure, escape the pocket, and make reads downfield. But we have to remember, and Saleh pointed this out, again, as you guys know, I try to bring you as many press conferences as I can. I'm working really hard at work, so I try to bring you as much as I can when I can. Don't remember exactly which one it was, but in one of the press conferences, they were pressing Saleh about it, and he said, okay, let's remember something for a second. In college, the window, a target, could be 6 inches to a potential foot. He's like at the NFL level, he was standing at the podium. He said, it's me to the podium. It's this. Your margin of error went from this to maybe that. He's adjusting. He's getting there because he's the kind of quarterback that has a lot of confidence, doesn't lose the confidence in himself, so he's going to continue to try to make the big play. It could lead, especially in the beginning of his career, it could lead to games like this, where he continues, again, not make the same mistake, but continue to make mistakes, make bad mistakes, and they compound because he's trying to make something happen. He's trying to make it happen. And like we said, everybody, the best again, everybody progresses at their own rates, right? Everybody And I see you guys bringing up some of your comments. I want to bring those up as well. But everybody progresses at their own rate, right? Not saying Zach Wilson has been good. That's a fact. He's been okay. Like Robert Saleh pointed out in those other weeks we were talking about it, you could argue his play was pretty good because he was playing smart football, not turning the ball over like he did against the Patriots, and putting the team in a position where the running game, the defense could win the game. We wanted Zach Wilson to show us he can be the guy, right? That he can be the guy that you can put the game on. Well, again, he made a lot of mistakes, but he had a really big game. He threw for a lot of yardage. Again, look what Garrett Wilson did. Look what Conklin did. Look what Mims did. He had that big game. So, again, with the things I've brought up to you guys, I want you to take this last game Zach Wilson had. And again, I'm not saying the bad wasn't bad. We've been saying it a lot because I don't want you guys to think I'm saying that. The bad was awful. But remove the bad for a second. Remove the bad and then look at what Zach Wilson did. And you're like, huh. Like we said, Garrett had a huge game. Conklin had a huge game. Mims had a huge game. He threw for 300 and over 350 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. If we take out those bad ideas and bad reads, really bad reads and bad decisions, it's not as bad a game. So I do want to point out, shout out to all you guys. I appreciate all you guys out there. Appreciate you guys listening. Robbie points out, brother, and it's true. Zach Wilson has one of the lowest completion percentages, not just for off-schedule plays, but he has a very low completion percentage, and that's true. That is definitely true. But what I want to show you guys, and I'm bringing it up right now, Trevor Lawrence has had plenty of games, even just this season, with 51% completion percentages, 47% completion percentage, 57%, 58 against the Broncos. I'm not justifying it. Please don't think that. I'm not saying, oh, well, that's great that Zach's doing that. It's not. We'd like it to be better. But again, he's a young kid. He's a young kid that's developing and learning. And as we know, as I know as a teacher, and you guys know as well, everybody learns differently. Everybody develops at a different rate. Like we said, like I said, would I like him to be great right now? Yeah, I love him to be great right now. And I think that's the problem that we're having. And if you think about it, that might be the case, right? Think about this for a second. Maybe we figured, right, that this team is great right now, right? We have a great team. Our defense is awesome. This is a win now team. We're winning. This is a great team. Zach is holding us back, which is true. That's not untrue right now. But if you again come at it as this is a young kid, we just assumed that when the offense was really good around him, he would all of a sudden click, right? He would all of a sudden click and everything would make sense. He would read the field like a master. Everything would just work. Unfortunately, and again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe next week he'll be great. But this Patriot game kind of crashed us back to earth by showing us that that might have been a false reality, right? That might have been a false reality where we just again figured because this team is so great around him, he will be great too. And again, he's in his second year. We want him to make that second year leap. But like I said, and I don't want this to be the case. Again, please don't think I want this. I don't want this to be the case. But there have been plenty of really good quarterbacks like Peyton Manning that struggled in their first and second year and then had that major jump in their third. Like we said, think of it like that. Think of it how he's 23-year-old kid in literally his, 18th game? Something like that, 18th game. And like we also said, if Zach were to come out, probably not against the Bills, right? Let's be honest. The Bills have an outstanding defense. But let's bring it up right here. Let's say after the Bills game, let's say the Bears game, for example. Let's say Zach has a huge game with no mistakes and plays a really amazing game. Again, like we were just saying, kind of like he just did without the mistakes, right? Take that game and subtract the mistakes. If he does that, everyone's going to be like, oh, Zach's the guy again, right? All those people we were talking about that came out of the woodwork. And that's what we have to be weary of, right? We have to be, please, I think you guys see it. I'm telling you, I think you guys see it. These people that are coming forward already, that are already saying, look, Zach Wilson's a bust. They're the same people that were telling us earlier on that Zach Wilson was always a bust. And they were waiting for a game like this to rise out of the woodwork. They were waiting for a game like this to come back to life and go, oh my God, Zach sucked. He's terrible. He's always been bad. He'll never be the quarterback. These are those kind of people, right? So, Jets Chaos, what's up, my brother? Appreciate you, man. Jeremy, love that you're in the house, bro. Appreciate you, Jeremy. So Jeremy points out Zach is 4-1. He had an awful game. It happened. Nobody knows for sure. It's like, I love that. Oh, man, I love that. It's like Neo. I know you meant Neo, not Nemo. It's not finding. Maybe it is Finding Nemo in the Matrix. Maybe you got to find the clownfish in the Matrix. Maybe that's the new one, the new movie they're going to make. But it could be like Neo in the Matrix, bro. He could still be the one. So I get people being upset, right? And I think, again, the upsetness comes from our team's been kicking ass, right? Our team's been really, really good. And even though Zach Wilson wasn't, this is Neo, even though Zach Wilson wasn't having great games, he wasn't having bad games either. And we were winning. We were winning a lot of games. So like Jeremy pointed out, Zach is 4-1. Hey, we're 5-3 right now. So at 5-3, if we double that, we're 10-6. And I don't think there's any of you guys in here with me that's going to be upset about double-digit wins. If you are, please make yourself known, because I think everyone else is coming for you. Like, no one's going to be upset about double-digit wins. So again, we're 5-3 right now. You double that, we're 10-6. So he had an awful game. You can't argue that, right? You can't argue that Zach Wilson had an awful game. It was terrible. And again, we talked about those decisions. I just don't know what he was thinking. I think, again, it comes down to he believes, what you want in a young quarterback. He believes a lot in himself. He believes a lot in his teammates, and he believes a lot in his physical abilities. So because of that, he took some really shitty chances. That was, if you guys remember, I think it was the Steeler game, I said the same thing, where he went off schedule, went onto the side, made his best like Patrick Mahomes impression, and almost threw an interception in the end zone. And I had the same reaction. I was like, okay, trying to do a little too much, right? Trying to do a little too much, putting too much on your own shoulders. Again, you want that to eventually happen, but there's learning, right? There's, like we said, there's going to be good games. There's going to be bad games. The hope is that he learns from the bad and he doesn't make the same mistakes over and over and over. So you guys see it, right? I'm saying it right here. And this is a fact. As much as I do believe in Zach Wilson being the guy, if he continues to have games like this, if he continues to make these bad decisions and, like we said, has Sam Darnold syndrome and doesn't learn from them, then I will be one of the people to say that there's something wrong here. There is something wrong here, and maybe we need to reevaluate, right? But it was just one game. It was one game where, again, he had, and I can't stress this enough, everyone calling him a game manager, saying he can't be the guy. This was the second best passing defense in the NFL. Remember, Denver, Trevor Lawrence played Denver. His ass could barely throw for 130. Let's be honest here. He could barely throw for 130, right? Zach Wilson, where is it? Had it up here a minute ago. Zach Wilson had a similar game against Denver, but if you look at what Trevor Lawrence did, he threw 2 interceptions. That was a game where Zach played a clean game. He didn't do anything great, but he also didn't do anything bad. In this Patriot game, like Jeff said, that's what happened, Jeff. You're right. In this game, he tried to be the guy. He tried to be like, I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to make these huge throws. I'm going to show everybody what I have. And it freaking backfired on him. It backfired on him really bad. So again, you could say, oh my God, why did he continue to make bad decisions? But one way to look at it, don't you want your young quarterback to have confidence, right? Don't you want your young quarterback to believe in himself and not start wavering and not come out and go, oh, woe is me. I don't think I can do this anymore. Don't you want him to come out and be like, shit, man, I'm the freaking guy. Like, I can still throw these balls. I can still make a huge play. Like Jeremy points out, again, love Jeremy's always got the amazing takes. Appreciate you, Jeremy. And Trevor didn't lose his top 5 tackles to injury, right? Zach Wilson, you guys remember, I pointed this out 2 weeks ago. In 2 weeks ago's game against when we were playing Denver, Zach was on run for his freaking life. Zach was under constant pressure. I was joking that if Joe Flacco was in the game, he would have been sacked like 50 times. Flacco would have been sacked like 50 times. He probably would have died. We would have been holding a funeral for the man at the end of the game. So let's take an interesting second to point out that he's not the QB2 anymore, right? Mike White is QB2. Mike White is now QB2. Joe Flacco has lost his favor, but his ass would have been killed. Zach Wilson's mobility is what saved him, and he didn't try to do anything crazy. He did. He did against New England, and it backfired. Again, you can't defend it. That first interception, horrible decision. How the hell do you throw off balance on your back foot with a defender in your face, knowing you're going to sail it? Just a terrible decision. I know for a fact Zach will probably be like, I want every single one of those back. Just like the throwaway. He's got one of the strongest arms in the league. He could have thrown that into the second row. He could have passed it to one of you guys in the upper deck. You could have been like, Zach, I'm open. Because he was out of the pocket. But it was a bad decision. It was a really bad decision where, again, I do want to say Robert Saleh stressed in his press conference that he thought that dude was out of bounds. He thought that wasn't a pick. But either way, it doesn't justify it. We got to be honest, right? We got to call a spade a spade. Either way, it does not justify Zach's boneheaded decision. So again, there's no sugarcoating here. There's no one saying, Zach, again, if we take the bad out, we do have to really like what we saw in him. But you can't argue that he lost this game. You can't argue that the defense was playing so well that even with these mistakes, we were somehow in it at the end. Like, I still think that is an underappreciated fact, right? Let's remember that with 3 really bad interceptions, including one right before the half where they should have got a touchdown. They started in the red zone. And like Jeff points out, he points out guys like Belichick, we played really good coaching. We have to remember that, right? It doesn't matter that Mac Jones hasn't been good. The Patriots always play us well. They know our freaking card, right? They always seem to have our card because they have a really good coaching staff. Believe me, when I say that, I want to blow my freaking brains out. Like I'm freaking sick of Bill Belichick, like you guys. Like, I'm freaking sick of this guy, just like I was sick of Tom Brady. But it's Bill Belichick, right? It was good coaching, and they made Zach pay. They made him pay. They capitalized on his mistakes, and somehow our defense kept us in the game. So again, I think this could be everybody's take. And again, please disagree me if you're wrong. But I think we just felt because our team is so good, we just assumed that Zach Wilson would make that huge jump. And because he hasn't yet, we're furious. Right? I think that's the best way to think about it, right? I even think, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Connor Hughes. I think on Twitter, he put something similar out, right? That everyone's that, and I feel this way, right? That our defense has been freaking awesome, right? Our defense has been great since Zach's return. We love our receiving core. Corey Davis should be back soon, which that's an important factor, which I do want to talk about as well. You guys remember I said it here. When they said Corey Davis was potentially on the trading block in the middle of the season, you guys remember my reaction. I laughed. You guys remember, you can check it. I had the show where I was like, there's no way that Corey Davis is on the trading block. He's too vital to this offense. So, man, him coming back, him and Garrett Wilson have clearly been the guys on the outside and clearly Zach's main targets. Elijah, man, we can talk about that as well. We could definitely talk about that, but I do want to mainly focus on Zach Wilson, the take I've been giving you guys. So again, he had an awful game. He had an absolutely awful game, but that doesn't mean he's a bust. That doesn't mean that he sucks. It means he's exactly what he is. He's a young quarterback, pretty much still just starting his career in the NFL, learning the nuances of it. And again, back to, I'm all over the place because there's so many thoughts I had on Zach. You guys remember before I mentioned that one of my favorite things always about Zach was his ability to create something, his ability in college to sense that innate pressure we talked about, right? That innate pocket presence he had to sense pressure, fall out of the pocket, and read the field really well. Well, when you do that, you run the risk of potentially making mistakes, right? And like we said, he's been doing these off script things, but so interesting with Dark. I won't throw that out. It's interesting what Dark is saying. That's an interesting one. That's interesting. So let's bring that up for a second. So Dark Shulgin, shout out to all you guys. Dark Soldier said, I think they need to change the rule that if a QB throws an interception and gets a roughing the passer called, the interception should still stand. That is interesting. That is really, really interesting. And again, obviously would have changed the whole game, right? So I do want to really, really talk to you guys about Zach Wilson because that's the big conversation I wanted to bring to you. But of course, talking about other stuff, that JFM penalty was huge, right? That JFM penalty, literally, you could make the argument that also cost us the game, right? We would have went into the half 17-3, but instead we went in 10-6. And New England got the ball at the end of the second half. So you remember they asked Robert Saleh at the end of the game about it, and he was annoyed too, right? Where is it? He said that, it was a 10-point swing and that it could have been 17 if you count the beginning of the second half. Now, if you guys remember, again, this is my first chance to, bring, because I wasn't able to come to you guys yesterday. You guys know I bring you guys the press conferences, like after the game, stuff like that. So covering the press conferences enough, you start to last year, like I joked about 2 years ago, you start to get a read on the coach a little bit, you start to read between the lines with maybe facial expressions. When they asked Robert Saleh about, and I'm going to bring the exact question up, when they asked Robert Saleh about the explanation given on the JFM penalty, man, he had the most annoyed face you could ever imagine. He was like, yeah, they said he was hit too hard. But he paused. The way he looked, again, because this is not normal for him, he basically had a look on his face where after he said, yeah, he was hit too hard, he was like, fuck that. Just fuck that. So as we know, right? As we know, the NFL officiating came out yesterday and apologized, right? Think about how crazy that is, because how long has NFL officiants been our enemy, right? How long have they always made the calls against us? Where, we're always like, oh, the officials have it in for us, right? Because they do. But man, we look at this for a second, right? The officiating literally came out and said that they were wrong about the call and it should be taken. If it could, it would be taken back, and they apologized to the Jets organization. I'll be honest, I don't know about you guys. That was a sucker punch. That was an absolute sucker punch because we've had really bad calls against us in the past. But this was literally a bad call that you could argue, easily cost us the game, right? Michael Carter II had the pick six. It was a pick six. He was running it back, and that's Dark Soldier's point. His point was that if the pick still would have counted, we would have went in 17-3 as opposed to it being 10-6. Again, not enough credit to the defense to holding them. Not enough credit to the fact that the defense, they got the ball pretty much in the red zone and we held them to a field goal. Again, defense does not get enough credit in that game. I know they struggled on third down, but do got to get enough credit. Man, that was rough. That was rough because when they came forward, it was like the confirmation of they fucked us, right? It was like literally the confirmation. Like they're confirming, yes, New York Jet fans, you have been fucked. That's basically what happened. It pissed me off. I was furious. Granted, I do appreciate the honesty, right? I do appreciate them being honest. But if they would have called it right, it would have been 17-3. That changes Everything. It could have potentially even changed Zach Wilson's approach to the way he played that game and the game that he had. So, Dark Soldier, that is interesting. I will definitely say that is a very, very interesting take. The only argument I would make is, and we've seen this before, sometimes when a flag is thrown, you see like the receiver maybe give up on the route, or you see the cornerback potentially maybe hold because they know, oh, a penalty's been called already, or you see the quarterback just be like, shit, I'm just going to throw it up because a penalty already happened. That's the only thing I worry about. For this to work, it obviously needs to be instituted, but players need to know that this is the case. Because again, the issue I have right now, and we all see it, when that flag is thrown for roughing the passer or whatever, everything changes, right? The whole dynamic changes. However, that being the case, if they made it clear, if they said this is going to be the case and the play is still active, that's an interesting take. I will totally give you that, my man. I will totally give you that. That is a very interesting take. And again, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal and upsetting to see. So, like you guys say, you're talking about that turn. It was a brutal turn, right? It was an absolutely brutal, brutal pivot, right? We could have been up 17-3, and instead we're only up 10-6. And they get the ball in the second half. And as we saw, they went right down the field and scored. They had the momentum. They kept the momentum going. And now we're losing the game. After pretty much shutting them out in the first half, basically, now we're losing the game. So, yeah, that was big. That was really big. And Dark Soldier, that is interesting. That is a really interesting take. But, yeah, that penalty sucked, guys. That penalty was absolutely, absolutely fucking devastating. And, again, I guess I can respect NFL officiants for coming forward and saying that it was the wrong call. But again, the tweet might have just literally said, "Dear Jet fans, you've been fucked and we're sorry." It just really angered me because we know how crucial that was. So again, I guess I'm happy that they were honest. Maybe in the future, we'll see more calls go our way. But that was a freaking gut punch. That was an absolutely forget gut punch. That was like a head cut off, right? That was like sorry, my dog's coughing. I think she's okay. She's good. But that's like a freaking head cut off, man. That was absolutely awful. So interesting take, Dark Soldier. Very, very interesting take. But again, I do want to come back to, again, talking about Zach Wilson. We can't argue that the receivers had a good game, right? Garrett Wilson had over if I think about it, let me see, I'm going to give you the exact number. I think it was 115. Hey, I got it exactly right. Garrett Wilson had 115 yards, and he averaged almost 20 yards a catch because of that insane 54-yard catch. And let's remember, he was targeted 7 times, and he hauled in 6 of them. That's damn impressive. So let's give Garrett Wilson credit where credit is due, right? He was targeted 7 times. He hauled in 6 of them, had 115 yards, and averaged over 20 yards a catch. Tyler Conklin had his best game as a Jet with just about 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Mims had a really big game too. And like we said, who's throwing them the ball, right? Where's the football coming from? It's coming from Zach Wilson. So again, the bad was bad. Like we said, we've talked about that a lot. I can't stress that enough. The bad was bad. It cost us the game. But if we come at it from the fact that people were afraid, he's only a game manager. Where's that big game? He threw for over 350 yards. These guys we just mentioned had huge games against the second best passing defense in the NFL. He has to clean up those mistakes. And as we said, a young quarterback, there's going to be mistakes. It's crazy to think there won't be. Again, I think my big take I mentioned before, and I think we all feel this way, we just felt that because our team and our offense has been so great, that Zach Wilson will automatically be great too, right? I mean, why not? We have really quality receivers. Obviously, we lost Brees, and that's just devastating on its own. But we had Brees back there who was killing in the running game. Why wouldn't Zach be great? Like we said, everybody, just everybody progresses at their own rate. Everybody, it's the truth of the answer. Some players are gonna be great automatically in their second year. Some are gonna struggle a little bit and maybe get better as the season goes on. Again, I stress that I don't want this to be the case. I don't want it to be the case, but we've seen quarterbacks as well that struggle through their first 2 years and then come out and have a really amazing third year and show, hell yes, I can be the guy. We need to look at the promising things in this game. That Zach, again, against such a quality defense, threw for over 350 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns, and his confidence isn't a bad thing. It worked out not in his favor. I mean, don't get me wrong. It couldn't have been more against him than it could have been. But you got to like that confidence. You got to like that he came out, his demeanor didn't change. He kept playing the exact same way he was playing. He kept trying to make something happen. He kept trying to make big throws. Again, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. Specifically, the third one, I guess a little more, in the end, he's trying to make something happen, a big play. But those first two, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. Those first two, literally, like, I don't even think he knows what the hell he was thinking. Afterward, he was like, probably just as loud an F word as you can imagine. Just, he really screwed the pooch, right? It was really bad. But like we said, and the way we've been looking at it, and it's the way we have to look at it. All these things we said. He had a really, he had a lot of yardage and had a good pass, and put up these big numbers minus the mistakes against the top defense, right? He is a young guy that's learning. There's going to be good, there's going to be bad, but he has to learn from that bad. Again, you heard me say it before, and I will say it again. If Zach Wilson continues to make bad plays and bad reads and bad decisions, if he continues to do this and literally lose the game himself, then I will be one of the ones to also say I was wrong. But I was wrong about the kid, and he clearly isn't the guy. But we can't know that yet. Again, perfect examples. Mac Jones, drafted in the same draft class, has literally been benched. He's been benched at multiple points. And there aren't people in New England aren't saying he can't be the guy because he's young and he's still learning. He can get better. He can learn from those mistakes. So that's what we need to see happen. Again, like I mentioned to you guys when I watched him in college, was he perfect? No, he was far from perfect. But for the things I look for, I loved what I saw. So again, in this game, if you look at specific things, look at those 350 passing yards. Like we said, a game manager quarterback doesn't do that against the second best passing defense in the NFL. And he's a young kid that's learning. If he cleans up, if he has a game next week or even the week after, with I don't know why I'm blanking at the moment, with the Bears. If he has a huge game against the Bears where he has huge yardage like he did, but take away the bad, right? If he has a 350 plus yard game, he throws 2 touchdowns, maybe 3, but doesn't throw any interceptions. That everyone's going to start saying, right, that Zach's the guy, right? That this is the guy. So we have to remember it's overreaction city because it's still the beginning, right? It's still early in his career, right? So it's going to be overreaction city, right? And I mentioned it before, and I guarantee I'm right. Look it up. Follow those receipts. As Jet fans, we're great at that. Follow the receipts. If these people that are saying Zach's already a bust, I guarantee you'll find evidence that they were saying he was always a bust. They're just coming out of the woodwork because of this bad game. They were waiting. They were chomping at the bit. Daniel Kelly, right, was chomping at the bit, waiting for this bad game. Now that the bad game happened, he's coming out of the woodwork. They're coming out of the woodwork to remind us that Zach Wilson is a bust and he's never going to be the guy. But we can't know that yet. Just like we can't say he's going to be great. I believe that he has the things that I look for in a quarterback. I believe that he can develop into the guy. But just like we can't say we know he's going to be great, we can't say we know he's a bust. We don't know anything yet. And that's the real truth of it. So again, you look at some of these things in these games, there were some positives that got dwarfed by the bad decisions because again, the bad decisions were really bad. They were really bad reads that everyone's like, what the fuck were you thinking? And it led to these conversations. But it made everyone forget Garrett Wilson's big game, Conklin's big game. The fact that, again, so Jets Mess points out it was 2 bad games in a row. Let's go back to the last game Zach played. So in the Denver game, he threw for 121 yards, which is not great. He threw 0 touchdowns, but he also threw 0 interceptions. So in all the other games Zach's been playing this season so far, right? Remember, the big take that everyone was saying on Zach was that, that he wasn't having these great games or good games even, but he wasn't bad. That's where the game manager conversation came from, right? The game manager conversation came from what he's doing, just what he needs to win. He's not able to be the guy that can put it on his back. He's not able to be the guy that can have a huge game. Well, let's remember he did, right? He did make big mistakes, but he did have a big game. He did throw for over 350 yards against this top defense. And again, look what Trevor Lawrence did. Trevor Lawrence against this same defense threw 2 interceptions. Zach threw 0 because he was playing smart football. He tried to do more this week, and it came back to bite him. And I know a lot of people were saying, oh, well, he kept making bad decisions. It wasn't the same bad decision. And that's an important thing to point out, right? It wasn't the same bad decision, but he kept making bad decisions. Like we said, one way to look at that, don't you want your young quarterback to have confidence, right? Don't you want your young quarterback to be unfazed by the interception, to be unfazed by the bad play, to not be in his own head, but come back out and still be that guy, right? They call it 10-second Tom, right? Come back out like nothing ever happened. Well, that's what he did. Unfortunately, it kept fucking up. That's the problem. Unfortunately, it kept screwing up. Now, Dark Soldier, got to appreciate this, bro. Got to appreciate you're pointing these things out because this is exactly what I'm talking about. Trevor has the most red zone interceptions in the league since being drafted. These are young kids. If anyone out there is telling you that Trevor Lawrence is already a bust, they're crazy. And if anyone's telling you that he's already great, they're also crazy. It's the same thing. We don't know. Zach's a young kid. He's going to have games like this. I do think, and again, I can't stress this enough, I think our anger came from the logic that, well, this team is great. It's a win now team, right? This is a playoff ready team. Zach held us back last week. Zach is the reason we lost that game. Well, that's true. We can't argue that. Zach is the reason we lost that game. However, we have to look at these facts, right? We just assumed that because the team was now great around him, he would all of a sudden be great. That's not the case. I mean, maybe it will be next week, right? Maybe next week we'll be talking and we'll be saying how Zach had this huge game. And that's the point, right? If Zach has a huge game, all those people saying he's a bust, they're going to go back away. They're going to go back. They're like cockroaches, right? They're going to go back into the rafters where they were hidden. They're going to go back into their walls, just waiting for Zach to have his next bad game, to come out and do it again to us, to be like, Zach's a bust. Zach's always been bad. He can never be the guy. But that's what it is. It's these extremes. It's the extremes from both sides. But the truth is that he's a young quarterback in his second year that game-wise has really only played like 17 games, and he's going to make mistakes. He's going to play bad games. You want to focus on the good, like the big yardage he had, the big yardage our receivers had, the fact that he didn't get afraid, that he didn't get in his own head, that he continued to try to make the plays. Trevor Lawrence has very low completion percentages. Like Dark Soldier points out, he has the most red zone interceptions in the freaking league. Justin Fields has low completion percentages. It's how it works. Like Robert Saleh pointed out, the thing we love most about Zach is when he goes off script and he tries to make something happen. Well, when you try to make something happen, windows matter. And like we said before, his window went from this in college to basically this. Right? We've seen it with Sauce and coverage. This is the window now. That's what his window is. It's harder. He's developing. If he's off by 2 inches, it's an interception. That's how we have to look at it. If he's off by over 2 inches, it's an interception. The play didn't work. Now, again, granted, those were awful interceptions. So, like we said, he has to not do that again. If next week Zach Wilson is falling backward and makes a throw off of his back foot, sailing it, then yeah, then we got to be like, what the fuck, right? Then at that point, we got to be like, what the fuck, dude? Wait a minute, hold on. No, you can't be doing that. That's a problem. But again, we want him to learn. We want to see him learning. So Dark Soldier saying exactly like I said, right? Literally the same thing. Can't make excuses because we're not, right? I'm not here saying Zach had a good game because he did not. Again, we got to be excited about the big yardage. We should focus on that because I feel like so many people aren't focusing on, well, the conversation was he's a game manager, right? He's a game manager. This game negated that. It proved it wrong. Again, he had a really bad game, but he had really big yardage too. Like Dark Soldier says, he sucked on Sunday, but it was his 18th game. 5 great defenses. He didn't have a preseason or a first 3 games. Dark Soldier, that's exactly what I'm saying. 100% my brother, right? Look at it. We've played all these quality defenses. Remember, Robert Saleh said it. He said we would love to see more of the off-script stuff that we love from Zach Wilson, but the offensive line hasn't been doing him any favors, right? We have to remember that. Last week against Denver, that the offensive line was better this week, and that's one thing we do have to point out, right? Got to give credit where credit's due. It wasn't great. Was not great. Could be a lot better, but it was much better this week than it was with Denver. So those mistakes are on Zach Wilson. That is a fact. Those mistakes are on him. But in that Denver game, the man was running for his life. Remember, I said it after the game. In that Denver game, he had literally no time to throw the ball. He was constantly running out of the pocket. Forget throwing the ball. He couldn't make a read. The guy had no time to make a read or go through any kind of progression. So he didn't make bad mistakes, though. He didn't do anything stupid. He did in this game. He did, and he tried to make more happen, and it didn't work. Like we said, he's a young quarterback. We just compared him to all the other guys, right? There's going to be good, there's going to be bad. This is not a crazy standout game if you look at some of the other guys, right? Like, for example, against Denver, Trevor had 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. Zach's 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions is not a tremendous difference. I'm not saying it's good. Again, please, I'm not saying it's good, but the point is these are all young quarterbacks that are learning. We don't know what Zach is going to be yet, but we do have to like some of the promising things we're seeing. So again, like Dark Soldier said, we're not making excuses, right? We are not making excuses right now. He was bad on Sunday, but what is he going to do moving forward? Because like we said, if we take the bad that he had in that game and we take it out, we're like, damn, he threw for 350 something yards and 2 touchdowns against the second best passing defense in the NFL. Like, that's a fact. People again want to focus on the bad, but that's a fact. So can he learn from these mistakes? All of them were fixable. Every mistake he did, we just talked about it. Those first 2 interceptions should never have been thrown. They should never, ever, ever have left his hand. Hopefully he knows that now, and he doesn't make those mistakes going forward. He tried to do too much. He honestly thought he could sail it and that his receiver would make the play. You're in the NFL, right? You're in the NFL now, my friend. He did the same thing at BYU. The result's going to be very different in the NFL than it was at BYU. And he's learning that. And that's the point. So again, like we said, if he comes out and has a huge game and just kills it, everyone's going to be back to saying he's great and he can be the guy. The reasoning is he's still young. We don't know yet. So don't let everybody, and that's the point here, don't let everybody, convince you that he's a bust already or he sucks, because he's a young quarterback that's going to have bad games. We have to hope that he doesn't keep having bad games, that he doesn't continue to make the same mistakes, that he learns from them. And even if he isn't great immediately, we want to see progress, right? So again, we have a great team around him. We hope that he would be great We're not seeing that yet. That could change. Again, I don't want to jinx it, but like we said, we've seen plenty of quarterbacks that didn't make their major stride until their third year. We just don't know. He's still a young kid. So don't let anybody convince you, that he's a bust and he's awful and he can't be the guy. But again, he did have a really bad game. Let's see where he goes from here, right? And let's remember the good things we saw in the game. Because, again, everyone's saying he's just a game manager. Like we said, he's playing quality defenses every week, right? Literally, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. It really kind of is. Every game since Zach Wilson's been back, pick the game. Literally every game since he's been back, he's played a quality secondary that's either good or really good. That's the kind of secondaries he's been playing. So he had a lot of games where he didn't do much. And this game, he tried to do more. And again, there was really bad, but we should find it promising that our young quarterback threw for this many yards and our receivers had such a good game against a quality secondary. Again, the second best passing defense in the NFL. So the whole point is we're going to have to wait and see, right? We're going to have to wait and see. But other things to talk about as well. Again, I appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If there's any other topics you want to bring up, we mentioned the offensive line before, and that's something I do want to touch on quick. So with the offensive line, it hasn't been that good. Ever since AVT went out, it's exposed us, right? AVT is otherworldly. We know that. AVT is not just our best lineman. He's arguably our best player. Like, I don't think anyone would argue that AVT and Sauce Gardner were, before AVT got hurt, they were the best players on the Jets. Like, that's just fact. AVT is incredible. Him not being there changed everything. The whole offensive line has struggled. And let's not forget Laken Tomlinson for a second, because as you guys remember, Laken Tomlinson was really bad in the beginning of the year. He's gotten better. He's still not at a Pro Bowl level. He's playing better, but he's still not where he's supposed to be. He's, again, a Pro Bowler in an identical system, literally the exact same system he's always been in. I don't get it. I expected him to play at the same level. We all did. So Max Mitchell and George Fant will be back soon. And as you guys know, my big take is we're building this team for long term. Right? We're building a team here, building blocks. That being the case, Max Mitchell is 100% one of our building blocks. Max Mitchell is a player that we are going to build around. That's a kid that's a right tackle, a fourth-round pick, literally thrown into the fire as a rookie, and in his second game ever, he makes the game-winning block against no other than Myles Garrett, literally one of the best edge rushers in the entire NFL, to allow the Jets to win the game. So nothing against George Fant, because I like George Fant a lot, but Max Mitchell is our future. Max Mitchell is our future at right tackle. Again, the quality of play we've seen from him in the limited time we've seen as a fourth-round pick is crazy. And Nate Herbig is another guy that I also look at as a building block of this offensive line. Again, kudos to Joe Douglas. He goes out and gets Nate Herbig, who is literally the kind of offensive lineman he likes. A nitty-gritty guy, a nasty player, an in-the-trenches kind of bull guy, and he's been good as well. So when Max Mitchell comes back, even if George Fant is healthy, I want Max Mitchell in. That's my take. Even if George Fant is healthy, I want Max Mitchell at right tackle because, again, he is our future there. He's shown us that. He has so much potential for a fourth-round pick in the limited we've seen from him. I would like to see him and Nate Herbig continue to build chemistry together. So even if George Fant is ready to go, I want Max Mitchell at right tackle because he's already proven that he can block guys like Myles Garrett and Justin Houston. What more can you ask for? So I want him next to Nate Herbig. I want to see the two of them develop together. And maybe together they can develop and make a quality side out of that right side of that offensive line. And again, they're both young guys that are staples of, or should be staples of, our offensive line. Now, when AVT comes back, We know he can play anywhere. We know he can play anywhere. So my big take, and I think you guys have heard it from me before as well, I'm not happy with Lakin. Again, Lakin hasn't been bad. I do want to stress that. He was bad in the beginning of the season. He was bad for like 3 weeks ish. He was bad for like 3 weeks. Then he got better, but he is nowhere near Pro Bowl form. So you guys know, we've talked about it before. I love Joe Douglas. That's one guy who I've said already is a great GM. And great. That's the one guy I'm using the great term already for. And you guys remember I've been calling Joe Douglas a great GM for years now, well before when everyone was telling me I was crazy, right? I was like, Joe Douglas is a great GM. I've given all the reasons why I think so, and everybody will eventually see it. Well, one of those reasons is the way he structures contracts. He is a contract wizard. He builds outs into contracts like nobody I've ever seen. So Lakin Tomlinson, we just signed him. We gave him a lot of money. In Joe Douglas' amazing ability, he literally built us an out after 1 year. So my big take, we want an offensive line that can not only be really good together, but have a young line that can start to gel and develop chemistry and protect Zach Wilson for a long time. So Nate Herbig, Max Mitchell, those are two young staples of our offensive line. So again, when George is back, I don't care. I want Max at right tackle. I want him to continue to do what he's been doing, continue to develop. Nate Herbig next to him, man, in the next draft, I want a blindside left tackle. Now, some people are saying AVT can play left tackle, which is true. AVT could probably play left tackle. And, he's done it before. And I bet he'd be very good at it. AVT can do anything. I bet he'd be very good at left tackle. But let's also remember that he was having a Pro Bowl year as a guard before we moved him. And he looked promising as hell last year as a rookie as a guard. Blindside left tackles, they're a rare breed. You guys know that. Blindside left tackles, the best ones in the draft, they go first overall now. They go second because they're such a rare breed. Having a strong blindside tackle is so important. So yes, AVT can do that. But what I would like to do, my 2 cents, I would like Joe Douglas to draft the best or one of the best blindside left tackles in next year's draft. AVT could play left guard, right? If Lakin continues to not play that well, you can cut him, right? If Lakin, even if he's just okay, you can say you don't deserve that money. You can cut him and move on. AVT could be at left guard. You get a top left tackle in the draft. Man, that's a sexy offensive line now. That's a sexy offensive line with a rookie, a third-year guy, well, McGovern, obviously, but next to him, a third-year guy, and then a second-year guy. That's a very young offensive line with a lot of talent. So that's my big take on the offensive line. I want Max Mitchell at right tackle, even if George Fant is healthy. That kid has looked really, really good with a lot of potential. I would like to see him continue to develop, to continue to grow, and the only way he's going to do that is by being on the field. And if he was a liability, then I would say no, he's putting Zach at risk. But he's, again, crazy enough as a 4th-round pick, already showed us that he's not a liability. Again, blocking guys like Myles Garrett literally to win the game. So I want Max Mitchell in immediately when he's healthy at right tackle. Let him and Nate Herbig develop chemistry together, and I want a top blindside tackle in the draft. Remember, it was supposed to be Mekhi Becton. He may come back next year, right? He may or may not. I think we've talked about this before. We have to go into next year with Mekhi. He is what it is, right? We have no expectation for him. No expectation whatsoever. If he can come in and play, freaking awesome. If he can't, oh well, right? No expectation for him whatsoever. So let's pretend he's not even there. Joe has to acknowledge that, yeah, obviously drafting Mekhi wasn't a mistake. We talked about that. He didn't know he was going to have injury problems. He didn't have those problems before, but he clearly has to acknowledge now this is not working out. We have a guy going into his last year of his contract, and he hasn't even played a full season. So I think Joe corrects his mistake, takes a top blindside tackle in the next draft. AVT could play left guard. You can cut Laken Tomlinson, and Connor McGovern has proven that with good linemen around him, he can be a quality center. But what I would even do is with our next pick, our high second round, hopefully not too high, our second round pick, take a center, right? Take one of, not the best, but take one of the top centers in the draft and let them learn behind McGovern. Let them sit behind McGovern for maybe a year or two and learn from him. So that's my take on the offensive line. But the biggest one is Max Mitchell. Max Mitchell, when he's healthy, he has got to be out there. I want to see that man play. I want to see him continue to develop and continue to show us that he can be our right tackle of the future next to Nate Herbig, who's also looking like he can be a guard for the future for us as well. So that's been my take on Zach Wilson. I hope you guys agree. Again, it's very simple, right? All of it, like we said, we do have to focus on the fact that he had a big yardage and that the receivers had big games against the top defense, but he made really bad mistakes. But he's a young kid and learning. Like we said, the biggest things are going to be watching him from here on out. Does he continue to make those same mistakes? And if he does, then we have to reanalyze this and go, okay, we got a problem here. Somebody seems to be suffering from Sam Darnold syndrome. But I think he's going to learn. I do. Like we said, there were the positives in this game where if we take out the negative, we're like, damn, he had a really good game against a quality defense if we take those negatives out. And again, they were bad. We can't stress that enough. Those were bad negatives. But we don't know yet, right? Just like we said with Mac Jones, who's been benched already, he's been so bad, and people are still saying, well, he could be the guy. So can Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson can still 100% be the guy. There is no way that he is already a bust. It's impossible to make that determination yet. Okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you guys enjoyed my take and my opinion on Zach Wilson and all of that. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you guys being here, being part of the podcast. I really do love and appreciate all you guys. Appreciate you guys being here. As you know, the show's usually on Mondays, so I'll be with you guys Mondays at 7. But I do like that I can do this. So if God forbid Monday doesn't work, I will always try to bring you the show on Tuesday, like I am now. And I will also try to bring you content throughout the week. Again, really, really appreciate you guys. Love having you here. Love having you part of the conversation. Love, the back and forth. Love hearing your guys' takes. Love hearing your guys' opinions. Absolutely love, again, the conversations that we have. Really, really thank you guys. And again, if you haven't subscribed, if you please could, and let your friends know. Right? Let your friends know, bring them in. Maybe the next time we'll have even more people. Let your buddies know, bring them into the channel, and we'll all have a conversation. We'll all have a conversation and we'll talk all about those Jets. Okay. So again, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for being here for the Take Flight Spit and Fire podcast. Hope you guys have a great, great rest of your week. And hey, let's win, right? Like we said, we're 5-3 right now. If you double that, we're 10-6. And we will take 10 wins all the time. So appreciate you, Dark Soldier. Appreciate the congrats. As you guys remember, I got married. I got my wedding ring. It was so amazing. It was an incredible wedding. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate the congrats. But again, thank you guys all for being here. Really, really appreciate all you guys. Literally love chatting about the Jets with you guys. Absolutely love it. And I love hearing your guys' takes, hearing your guys' opinions, and I love chatting it out with you. So again, appreciate, hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'll catch you guys next time, and let's get a win. Let's get another win. Let's have another victory Sunday. And then, hey, we're 6-3. And 6-3 looks pretty damn good. Okay? So you guys take care. I will see you next week. And let's go Jets.